one wrong step, one equipment failure, one sudden weather change. That's all it took to turn routine expeditions into the 6 most devastating deaths ever recorded in the world's most dangerous locations. These aren't just tragic accidents from risky adventures. They're reminders that in Earth's deadliest places, even experts can pay the ultimate price. It was March 15th, 2016, when 29-year-old Olive Avery began what would become her final climb in the central Himalayas. As an assistant climbing instructor with a community mountaineering club, Olive had built a reputation for being methodical and risk-aware, qualities that had kept her safe through countless ascents. But on this knife-edge ridge at 19,000 feet, those same careful instincts would prove insufficient. Olive was leading a final acclimatization traverse with her team, 2 clients aged 31 and 34, a conservative 37-year-old local high-altitude worker, and a 41-year-old base camp coordinator. The plan was straightforward: cross the narrow cornice ridge before their summit push. Weather reports warned of jet stream shifts bringing rising gusts and intermittent whiteouts. The team spaced themselves 25 to 30 feet apart on the fixed line to prevent multiple climbers from loading the same anchor. The anchors were a mix of T-slot snow pickets and rock nuts, though one picket was shallowly buried in unstable wind slab, a detail that would prove catastrophic. 2 days earlier, another team reported a cornice collapse along an adjacent section. Following proper technique, the team planned to travel on the windward side with belayed probing, avoiding the treacherous leeward lip where cornices form. As Olive led the traverse, visibility deteriorated rapidly. Spindrift created a moving curtain of white that reduced their world to just a few feet. She advanced carefully along the 12 to 16-inch wide crest, methodically probing with her ice axe. But the mountain had set a deadly trap. What appeared to be solid ridge was actually a concealed cornice, an overhanging lip of wind-deposited snow extending beyond the actual rock edge. When Olive stepped forward, the surface cracked ominously. In an instant, the lip sheared away completely, dropping her lower body into the void and applying devastating shock load to the nearest snow picket. The shallow T-slot picket shifted and partially failed. Load transferred to a rock nut at the previous rib, but not before Olive pendulumed violently under the ridge edge. The rope scraped across sharp rock, abrading the protective sheath. Olive struck a hard snow ledge chest first with tremendous force. Then her helmeted head slammed against ice-hard crust. The impacts caused multiple rib fractures, including a flail segment, left clavicle fracture, facial fractures, closed head injury, and severe pulmonary contusion. Line tension compressed her torso, making breathing nearly impossible in the thin air. A secondary wind slab released from above, sending ice chunks cascading onto her back and helmet, compounding the trauma. Her teammates could hear her labored breathing turn into an audible wheeze, a sign of serious internal injury. The rescue attempt was hampered by worsening conditions. The whiteout intensified, creating zero-contrast visibility. Gusts increased, making any extraction dangerous. As precious minutes passed, Olive's breathing became increasingly irregular and shallow. At 19,000 feet, where oxygen levels are critically low, her traumatic injuries created a perfect storm of physiological failure. The combination of chest trauma, restricted breathing, and severe hypoxia proved insurmountable. Her respirations became agonal before stopping entirely. When high-altitude rescue teams reached the scene after the weather improved, they found no signs of circulation. Olive was declared deceased on the mountain, another victim of the Himalayas' unforgiving nature and the hidden dangers lurking beneath seemingly solid snow. It was September 22nd, 2015, when 26-year-old Lena Crawford arrived at Devil's Inlet, a remote rocky coastline known for its powerful rip currents. As a freelance photographer, Lena had built her reputation capturing nature's most dramatic moments while maintaining a calm and cautious approach that had kept her safe through countless dangerous shoots. On this morning, however, the Pacific Ocean had other plans. Lena was documenting storm surge dynamics for a coastal safety series. Her 27-year-old friend assisted with gear, while 2 local shore anglers watched from a higher ledge 50 feet away. The remote location had no public life-saving equipment. Tide tables indicated a rising tide with long-period swells that could produce unexpectedly large sets. Rock shelves were coated with wet algae and foam, creating treacherously slick surfaces. Understanding the risk, Lena's friend had positioned a throw line and flotation device near the higher ledge. The anglers had observed increasingly larger wave sets over 30 minutes. Most ominously, a previously dry boulder had been suddenly wetted by a larger wave minutes before. Seeking the perfect angle, Lena stepped onto a lower shelf that appeared safe based on previous wave patterns. She adjusted her camera settings, framing the dramatic interplay between rock and water. A rogue set wave, significantly larger than preceding ones, overtopped the inlet lip and surged across the rock platform with tremendous force. The wall of water knocked Lena's feet out, sweeping her into a narrow chute where water accelerated seaward like a liquid conveyor belt. As she was pulled toward the channel, her right shoulder struck the sharp rock edge with devastating force, causing an anterior shoulder dislocation. The injury rendered her right arm useless, eliminating half her swimming ability. Her camera and pack became deadly anchors, creating drag as backwash pulled her seaward beyond the braking zone. The rip current accelerated her outward with relentless power. Lena attempted to angle across the current, but the combined forces defeated her efforts, especially with only one functional arm. She submerged repeatedly in turbulent water. Each submersion forced seawater into her lungs, triggering violent coughing fits that reduced her ability to stay afloat. The aspiration created a deadly cycle. The more she struggled, the more water she inhaled. A set wave drove her against a submerged rock with crushing force. The impact caused rib contusions and multiple lacerations on her lower legs. Blood began clouding the water around her. Her friend deployed the pre-stage throw line from the high ledge, but wind deflected it off course. It fell short of Lena's position, drifting uselessly in the current. The anglers attempted to help, but without proper rescue equipment, their options were limited. As relentless submersions continued, Lena's movements became increasingly uncoordinated. The combination of cold water, physical trauma, exhaustion, and repeated seawater aspiration overwhelmed her body's ability to survive. She became unresponsive, showing no visible respiratory effort, the clinical signs of drowning. A brief lull allowed the current to carry her body toward the inner cove, where eddies slowed water movement. Coastal volunteers, alerted by the anglers, were finally able to reach her. They immediately initiated CPR on firm rock, then moved her to a sheltered area. When emergency responders arrived, they took over life-saving attempts, but despite their best efforts, no sustainable pulse could be achieved. The medical assessment was straightforward: primary asphyxia due to drowning with contributory blunt impact trauma. Lena Crawford, who had dedicated her career to capturing the ocean's power, had become another victim of the very forces she sought to document. It was August 14, 2015, when 33-year-old Sophia Hollis descended into what would become her final cave exploration in a flood-prone limestone system. As a field technician with a regional geologic survey, Sophia had built a reputation for being organized and checklist-driven, methodically documenting underground formations with scientific precision. On this humid summer day, even careful preparation couldn't overcome the cave's hidden dangers. Sophia was leading a mapping expedition to photograph formations beyond a narrow squeeze in an unmapped side tunnel. Her team consisted of a 45-year-old project lead, a 38-year-old safety coordinator, and two experienced hobby cavers aged 34 and 29. Recent upstream rainfall had subsided, but humidity remained high and air felt stagnant. The team's multi-gas monitor had intermittently shown concerning readings: oxygen levels dipping near 19% and elevated carbon dioxide in adjacent chambers. The structural integrity of the side passage raised immediate concerns. Weathered support timbers lined sections of the tunnel, while fresh calcite flakes and dust scattered the floor near the squeeze, clear indicators of ongoing ceiling instability. A spotter remained positioned outside the constriction, while Sophia advanced into the chamber beyond. Faint crackling sounds from the ceiling and fresh dust on a ledge provided warning signs that went unheeded. As Sophia crawled through the narrow opening, her helmet brushing the unstable ceiling, the structural weaknesses finally gave way. A thin layer of ceiling spall detached without warning, striking her helmet and back. She lurched forward, but a larger slab shifted and pinned her left leg, trapping her in the low chamber. Dust and fine sediment immediately filled the confined airspace, reducing visibility to near zero. The multi-gas monitor confirmed oxygen levels dropped, while carbon dioxide spiked. Breathing became increasingly labored. as air quality deteriorated rapidly. The situation worsened as mud seepage began flowing along the chamber floor toward where Sophia lay trapped. The safety coordinator attempted to lever the slab using a pry bar, but each movement caused additional debris to dislodge from the unstable ceiling. Sophia's chest was compressed against the floor by the rock's weight, severely restricting her ability to expand her lungs. Her respirations became shallow and irregular, audible to team members working desperately to free her. Wedges were inserted to reduce the slab's movement, but they couldn't generate enough leverage. A secondary rock fragment fell near her face, pushing her cheek against wet sediment accumulating on the chamber floor. Muddy water began pooling around her mouth and nose, creating an additional threat of aspiration and drowning. The compressed chest position prevented adequate lung expansion, while deteriorating air quality reduced available oxygen. The pooling muddy water posed an immediate drowning risk, and ongoing structural instability made aggressive rescue attempts extremely dangerous. Despite the team's best efforts, Sophia's breathing became increasingly ineffective. The compression against her torso, combined with the hypoxic environment and contaminated water around her airway, overwhelmed her body's ability to maintain vital functions. Her respiration ceased, consistent with traumatic asphyxia compounded by environmental hypoxia and aspiration of muddy water. Recognizing extreme danger to additional team members, the group retreated to a safer chamber and called for specialized cave rescue. The recovery operation proved prolonged due to unstable conditions. Rescue teams had to establish mechanical ventilation and install temporary shoring before safely accessing the chamber. The cause of death was compressive asphyxia with contributory drowning, as the trapped position prevented effective breathing while muddy water contaminated her airway. It was November 8, 2018, when 41-year-old Madeline Ortiz arrived at a windswept mountain ridge construction site that would claim her life before the day ended. As a site supervisor with a mid-sized construction firm, Madeline had built her career on strict procedural adherence and unwavering attention to safety protocols. Her crew respected her methodical approach. But on this blustery autumn morning, even rigorous safety measures couldn't prevent the tragedy about to unfold. Madeline was overseeing a critical lift operation, installing a massive turbine blade onto the hub assembly at 6,800 feet elevation. Her team included a 52-year-old crane operator, a 36-year-old rigger, a 31-year-old signaler, a 29-year-old safety technician, and 2 installers positioned on the platform. Weather conditions presented immediate challenges. Gust advisories predicted winds above the manufacturer's recommended thresholds of 22 to 27 miles per hour. The company's operations manual required stopping all lifts when reliable wind data became unavailable. The fixed anemometer had been failing throughout the morning, displaying dash readings instead of wind speeds. The instrument failure should have triggered immediate stop work. Adding to the risk, the primary tagline showed visible fraying. A spare was available but hadn't been swapped as the crew rushed to complete the lift during an apparent lull. A brief test swing had produced unexpected weather veining and oscillation amplitude exceeding planned parameters, clear warning signs that conditions weren't suitable. The lift began during what appeared to be a temporary lull. The massive blade, weighing several tons and measuring over 150 feet, cleared the staging supports and began rotating toward the hub when nature intervened with devastating suddenness. A powerful gust struck the blade's underside with tremendous force, causing rapid weather veining that overwhelmed control systems. The frayed tagline snapped with a sharp recoil. With primary control severed, the blade became an uncontrolled pendulum, swinging with deadly momentum. The free blade swung laterally across the platform, striking a safety rail and sending metal fragments flying like shrapnel. Madeline, recognizing immediate danger to her signaler, stepped forward to direct him to safety, placing herself directly in the oscillating blade's path. The blade's tip clipped the platform edge with crushing force, causing violent rebound. The rebound motion pushed the blade root directly toward Madeline's position. She was briefly pinned at hip level against a guard structure, with immense weight and momentum, creating devastating compressive forces. When she stumbled under impact, her fall arrest harness lanyard tensioned abruptly, adding additional loading to her traumatized torso. The combined forces resulted in multiple pelvic fractures, numerous rib fractures, and suspected thoracic vascular injury. As she collapsed, her breathing became visibly ineffective. Secondary debris struck her helmet, causing a linear skull fracture that compounded her severe injuries. The signaler pulled her clear as the crane operator worked to control the load. On-site responders immediately initiated emergency care, establishing airway support and attempting to control bleeding, but Madeline's injuries were beyond field treatment. Despite best efforts to maintain circulation, her condition deteriorated rapidly. The combination of massive internal trauma, compromised breathing, and catastrophic hemorrhage proved insurmountable. Regional medical responders arrived and confirmed death on the platform. The cause of death was blunt force trauma with internal hemorrhage from high-energy impact and compression forces. Madeline Ortiz, who had dedicated her career to keeping construction workers safe, became another victim of the industrial hazards she had spent her life trying to prevent. It was February 14th, 2016, when 35-year-old Zachary Cole set out across a remote subarctic lake that would become his frozen grave. As a seasonal guide with a wilderness outfitter, Zachary had built his reputation on practical field skills and efficient travel through challenging terrain. His colleagues knew him as someone who could read the land like a book, making smart decisions that kept clients safe. But on this bitter Valentine's Day morning, even his experience couldn't save him from the lake's hidden dangers. Zachary was scouting an early season route across the lake to establish a shortcut for an upcoming supply haul. The route would save his team nearly 8 miles of difficult overland travel. His 32-year-old companion, a cautious individual known for clear thinking, remained on shore to maintain visual contact and provide emergency support. Recent weather had included an unusual warm spell, with temperatures climbing above freezing during daylight before plunging below zero at night. This freeze-thaw cycle created unpredictable ice conditions, especially dangerous near areas where moving water prevented consistent freezing. Ice thickness reports had been variable and concerning, particularly near inlet zones. Understanding the risks, Zachary had prepared carefully. He wore ice awls on a lanyard around his neck and carried a throw rope and metal probe to test ice thickness. He and his companion had established clear VHF radio contact before venturing onto the ice. Warning signs were present. Faint cracking sounds echoed near the inlet area. Darker patches of ice, washed clean by moving water beneath, created ominous patterns that experienced guides recognized as danger zones. His companion had advised taking a detour along a wider section, but Zachary focused on finding the most direct route. As Zachary advanced toward a narrow strip of darker ice, he followed protocol by tapping his probe and listening for the solid thunk indicating safe thickness. The probe seemed adequate, so he stepped forward. In an instant, everything changed. The ice sheet fractured around his boots, and he plunged through into near-freezing water. The sudden immersion triggered cold shock response, an involuntary gasp that forced him to aspirate water as his head went under. Zachary attempted to use his ice awls to pull himself out, but each effort only broke off more chunks, enlarging the hole and reducing leverage. The candled ice, weakened by warm weather, crumbled under pressure. His right shoulder struck the jagged edges repeatedly, causing abrasions and limiting mobility. His companion moved to a safer angle and prepared the throw rope, but distance across fractured ice, combined with wind, made accurate throwing extremely difficult. Zachary attempted to kick horizontally and spread his weight to get onto the ice surface. However, each edge failed under his weight, and his movement slowed as cold incapacitation set in. In near-freezing water, functional swim failure typically occurs within 2 to 3 minutes. His companion threw the rope, but wind deflected it off course. It fell short, landing uselessly on fractured ice. The intervals between Zachary's surface attempts grew longer, and small air bubbles rose beneath the ice. Signs he was losing the battle against hypothermia and drowning. Within minutes, Zachary slipped fully beneath the ice surface. His movements ceased entirely. His companion maintained visual reference and immediately called for emergency rescue services. Local responders eventually reached the lake using specialized ice rescue sleds. They recovered Zachary's body near where he had broken through. Medical evaluation identified cold water incapacitation leading to drowning as the primary cause of death. Zachary Cole, who had spent his career helping others navigate safely through dangerous wilderness, became another victim of the unforgiving forces he had dedicated his life to understanding. It was June 23, 2017, when 28-year-old Irene Blakewood arrived at the rim of an active stratovolcano that would claim her life before the sunrise she came to witness. As a science teacher volunteering with a local hiking club, Irene had built a reputation for being consistently prepared and safety-minded in all her outdoor adventures. Her students knew her as someone who never took unnecessary risks and always carried proper safety equipment. But on this early summer morning, even her careful preparation couldn't protect her from the mountain's deadly combination of toxic gases and unstable terrain. Irene was participating in a sunrise rim hike with a small, experienced group. Her companions included a 54-year-old club leader, 2 fellow hikers aged 30 and 27, and a 43-year-old local trail guide familiar with the volcano's wind patterns and dangerous gas pockets. The weather forecast had warned about fast-moving thunderstorms developing later, with growing convective activity visible on the distant horizon. These conditions were particularly concerning on an active volcano, where rapid weather changes could create deadly pockets of concentrated toxic fumes. The group's safety protocols included a continuous multi-gas monitor for detecting sulfur dioxide and hydrogen sulfide. All members carried protective masks and helmets, though some had been removing masks intermittently when the air seemed clearer. Warning signs were present. An upwind shift had caused the sulfur odor to strengthen briefly. Small pebbles had begun rolling downslope after what felt like a minor tremor. The club leader had established a predetermined turnaround point, but allowed the group to approach slightly closer for a photograph. The tragedy began when a sudden downdraft pushed a dense gas plume directly across the rim trail. The multi-gas monitor immediately alarmed, indicating dangerous concentrations. The group quickly donned protective masks as visibility dropped dramatically. Attempting to avoid the densest concentration, Irene stepped onto what appeared to be stable scree. However, the loose, volcanic material gave way under her boots, initiating a slide toward a shallow depression near an active fumarole where heavier-than-air gases naturally pooled. During her descent, Irene impacted a sharp rock outcrop, causing a forearm fracture and scalp laceration. The slide continued as she struck her torso against rocks, resulting in multiple rib fractures and pulmonary contusion that compromised her breathing. She came to rest in the shallow depression, where gas concentrations were significantly higher. The toxic mixture created intense airway irritation and violent coughing that reduced her ability to breathe effectively. The hot, unstable ground caused minor contact burns, while continued gas exposure impaired her respiratory function. Irene's attempts to scramble out on loose ash were unsuccessful as the unstable footing collapsed under pressure. She inhaled increasing amounts of toxic gases, leading to progressive airway swelling and worsening hypoxia. The group above threw a rope into the depression, but fluctuating visibility and unstable footing prevented them from pulling her clear of the toxic zone. As gas exposure continued, Irene's breathing became increasingly labored. The combination of blunt thoracic trauma, ongoing inhalation of concentrated toxic gases, and the hot, oxygen-depleted environment created respiratory failure. Her respirations gradually slowed and ceased. Mountain rescue response was delayed due to active gas emissions and approaching thunderstorms. When conditions allowed access, rescuers recovered Irene's body. Medical assessment determined the primary cause of death was respiratory failure from toxic gas inhalation, with contributory injuries, including rib fractures. Irene Blakewood, who had dedicated her career to teaching about the natural world, became another victim of the geological forces she had helped students understand. Thanks for watching. Want to watch more? Click on your screen now